I remember New Year's Eve and exactly how the year was going to play out, how everything was going to go. Life was so good at this time. I mean, it's New Year's Eve, right? You gather with friends, you hang out, you do this whole thing. It's this exciting time to be together. Some of you drink a little bit too much. Some of you are like, boy, I've really got to make some changes, which is why we always start on New Year's Day, start making changes. I usually start on January 2nd with the changes for me, because January 1 has all the food, college football, all that kind of stuff. So it's New Year's Eve, and I'm feeling great. I've got my family with me. I've got friends. We're at a friend's house, and it's just that great time of year, right? Where you get to celebrate, have fun. Man, that was a good time. And it was such a perfect, like the entire season before, the Christmas season, we were going and watching movies with friends. We were heading out and doing all the Christmas shopping, all that kind of stuff. We'd go to the State Theater and watch Elf, the quote along, which I absolutely hated, by the way. No, it wasn't Elf. Yeah, it was. We did watch Elf. And it wasn't the quote along, but it might as well have been the quote along. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. I love the movies. I don't like the quote alongs because I want to hear the actor saying it, not everybody in the crowd. That's an aside. Anyway, the whole season was just great. Watching Christmas movies, we had family up, all that kind of stuff, and then to go into the new year, we went to a friend's house. We had just gotten a new dog, and so like, man, everything was seeming awesome. And it was 2019, New Year's Eve. And then we got into 2020, and it's, as they say, history, right? We were all looking forward to 2020. 2020 is hindsight, everything's 2020 in hindsight, however that phrase goes. Like, we're like, that's going to be funny in 2020. Nobody wants to look back. Nobody wants to look back on 2020, do we? Because that was when it started out okay, right? It started out good, and then everything just seemingly fell apart. And I don't know if you know that, like, you've watched this or seen this on the internet. There's those memes that say that compare how it started versus how it's going, or how it started versus how it ends. It's usually pretty funny. Typically, it's like a person that is on a first date with a puppy or whatever, and then grown up or later on, it's just the woman and the dog. Like, how it started, how it ended. Like, the guy was a jerk, whatever, and he's gone. Those types of things always make me laugh. And some of my favorite ones, I got some here for you, is Kevin from The Office. How it started, man, he's got his chili going, he's ready to go, he's all excited, and then he falls and the chili goes everywhere. You know what I'm talking about? And then this one, 2020. Like I said, 2020, how it started, Happy New Year, and then how it's going. That was October 6th, 2020. Like, it matters how it ends, doesn't it? It's not just how it's going, how it started. Man, the ending really matters. The ending is as important as the beginning. And in this chapter that we're in Genesis chapter 36, we've just got 3 weeks left of why this family. In a perfect world, I would have ended it at this chapter, but man, 2 weeks from now, it's why I named the series Why This Family, is because of what happens in 2 weeks. But we're in Genesis chapter 36 of Why This Family, and I titled this message, What to Do When the World Keeps Winning. What to do when the world keeps winning. Because Genesis 36 takes a deep dive into the look of the genealogy of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob. We haven't really talked much about Esau. He's been, an outside character in the story so far. We know that Jacob took his birthright. We know that Jacob took his blessing, had to leave because Esau wanted to kill him. Then there was the reunion where everything seemed to be much better, and then Jacob lied to Esau again and went northwest actually, as opposed to just south to go with Esau like he said he was going to do. And so there's probably still some bad blood here. And what 36 does is kind of takes a pause in the story to talk about the genealogy of Esau. Now, he wanted a blessing. Remember, he was crying to his dad. He was crying to Isaac that he would give him a blessing too. And so Isaac gave him a blessing. but it wasn't the blessing. It wasn't the blessing that Jacob received, where he gets half the inheritance, half of everything, all that kind of stuff, or a double portion, I should say, to what Jacob got. So, to what Esau got. So Esau has a blessing. This kind of goes into the genealogy of Esau, what happens to his people. And I get to 36, and honestly, you guys, I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with 36 sometimes, because it's genealogy. Like literally, the entire chapter is just the genealogy of Esau. And it's just this person begot this person. They had chiefs, they had kings. Here's all the chiefs, here's all the kings, here's the people. And I was like, I don't know what we're going to do about this. But there are some things we can take away, because every scripture is important. Every scripture is useful for teaching. It says that in the New Testament, in Timothy. I don't know if it's 1st or 2nd, so I'm just going to say Timothy. I think it's 2nd Timothy. It has the genealogy of Esau here in chapter 36. And so we're not going to read the whole chapter. I'm just going to let you know right now, if you were about to turn this off, if you're going to stop listening to the podcast because you're like, I don't want to just hear a bunch of names. I get it. I don't want to read you a bunch of names, because I'm going to murder every single one of them. Not the people, the names, okay? I'm going to just make the names that's not going to be good for us. But names are important. It's important to get names right. My friend Kelly, she's the chairman of our board. She was talking to me about when she was learning Russian. She knows Russian, if you didn't know that. I was going to try to make a dad joke, but I got nothing. Kelly, when she was learning Russian, and there was a name that she couldn't get right, and she was like, I'll just skip over it, or whatever. Maybe it was one of her classmates or something. Sorry if I get this completely wrong, Kelly. But the teacher said, no, you have to learn how to pronounce their name, because that's a person. It's a real person. It matters something. That's their name. We need to get this right. And so I preface Genesis 36 by saying I'm not going to get the names right, but these are real people. Anytime we read a genealogy, we need to understand that these are real people that actually lived in biblical times, and for some reason, they're written down in the Bible. And so that's why it's important, because it reminds us that these aren't just like fictional characters that we dreamed up and wrote about. These are actual people. This is actual events of people in this time period. And so that's why chapter 36 is important, because it represents actual people, and there's a lot we can learn from that. And I've got a lot to get to today, surprisingly, on a genealogy chapter. So here we go. How it's going versus how it ended, how it started versus how it ended. Starting in verse 1 of chapter 36. These are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Edom means red. So Esau, he was also known as Edom because he was a big, red, hairy guy. Red hair, red whatever. He loved red soup. And come to find out, the place where he settles in Seir is also a very red area. There's red rocks, there's a bunch of red stuff. So just red is a color for Esau, and so he is also known as Edom, also known as like red Chewbacca, basically. I don't know where that came from. That is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites, which was not a good thing. Remember, Rebekah and Isaac did not want their kids to marry someone from the land of Canaan. They wanted them to go back home to marry someone within the family line. I know that sounds weird now. It sounds a little bit southern. It sounds a little backwoods. That's how it was this time. It's not what it is now. I'm not encouraging you to go marry your sister, okay? Don't do that. I'm going to tell you right now, don't do that. All right. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites. I'm sorry, you guys. I was gone for a week, and I've got a lot of stuff. Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Oh, my gosh. Oholibama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Now you know why I'm not reading all 40 verses. In base math, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. Isn't that Ishmael's daughter? Remember Ishmael? Abraham's son. The one that wasn't the promised son. The one that he did everything in his own power. That his wife said, take Hagar and have a son. Ishmael made an appearance. What do you know? And Ada bore to Esau Eliphaz. Base math bore Reuel. And Oholibama bore Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all the members of his household, his livestock, all the beasts, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan. He went into a land away from his brother Jacob, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together. The land of their sojournings could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. So he goes to Seir, had lived there for a while. Then we have this reunion with Jacob. He goes back. Jacob is in a different part of the land, and they're separated out. Now, what transpired before that was all of these kids that Esau had. Now, I don't know if Jacob had any way to get to know some of these people, like to know what was going on back at home when he was in Paddan Aram with his father-in-law Laban and now his two wives. Like, while all of that's going on, he's working hard for 7 years to get his wife Rachel. That turns around on him. He has to marry Leah first, and then another 7 years for Rachel. So during this whole time, Esau is having kids, getting a family, and growing the family business, his business. And it just looks like Esau is getting off to a hot start. Man, Esau's the one who has everything right now. And like I said, I don't know if Jacob can communicate with Esau at this time, but I don't know if word gets back to the family, because this is all family. If the word gets back like, wow, Esau's really killing it back home. And I wonder if Jacob's just like, man, this following God stuff is for the birds. I don't have any kids yet. I'm still working on wife number one. Esau's got a few wives. In Canaan, I should have just stayed in Canaan. I could have had wives, kids, livestock. This would have been a much easier path. But remember, it's how it ends versus how it started. Now, Edom was an interesting place, and there's some facts I want us to know about Edom, the land of Edom, the land of Seir. This was situated in between trade routes. There was a lot of trade routes that happened through here, and it's just like today. We would always you want to be by water from earlier in our nation's history. You wanted to be next to water because it was easier to get back and forth to places, port cities, all that kind of stuff. Or you wanted to be along a main road because that's how things got to where they needed to go. It was much easier to access places. So if you were along a trade route, that meant that you were in a pretty good position. You got traders coming back and forth. There's a lot of money changing hands. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of activity when you're along a trade route. So Esau plants himself next to a trade route. The land is Edom. He took over it from some other people, and it's kind of a big deal in this time. The other thing about Edom is that it was a natural protected area, naturally protected from outside invasion. It wasn't easy to infiltrate. In fact, it was said that you could defend Edom with about 12 people against an entire army. Now, the reason for that is because there are super high cliffs on either side getting into the city, and it's a few miles that you have to walk along these either side of these cliffs, this little pathway that wasn't very big. In fact, we've got a picture of it. This is taken nowadays, obviously, but that was the way into Edom. Now, if you're listening online, I got to tell you that there's walls up, and it's hard to get through, okay? So Edom is planted in here, in this space where it's very hard to get through. So it's a lot easier. You've got 12 guys here. Not a lot of people can get through. It's pretty easy to defend. And so they think that they've got it pretty good. And here's another picture. This is part of the city of Petra. It's not just a crappy 80s Christian rock band. It was an actual city in Edom. And you can see how difficult that would be to get through. You have the high ground. You have all this stuff. It's easy to defend. I say all of that because it started to get to Edom. It started to get to Esau. We've got it good. Man, we've got it made. We have no issues here. We can defend this place. It's easy to defend. It's easy to live. We're along the trade routes. We've got lots of commerce coming in and going. Business is booming. Things are good. But remember, it's not how it starts, but it's how it ends. And they started getting pretty prideful in their land, in how things are. I mean, if this is your home, if this is your city, you take a lot of pride in that. You don't think that you're very penetrable because of the natural formations of the stone and everything. You think nothing's going to hurt us. We've got this under lock and key. You have a lot of pride. And it also says that the people of Edom were a very prideful bunch. They're very prideful, and they were a very, they were a very wise bunch too. They were people who were very wise. They had a lot of knowledge. They knew what they were doing. And I say all of this because Edom doesn't last. Edom doesn't last. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry. Edom doesn't last. And when I'm going through this genealogy, I'm trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this? Chapter 36, we're not going to read verses 9 through 43 because it's just more genealogy. It talks about how many chiefs there were. There was like 28 chiefs, like 5 to 10 kings. It's incredible the amount of people in Edom and how it seemingly is that God is blessing Esau and not Jacob. But remember, it's not how it starts, but it's how it ends. So Edom becomes this really popular place. They start getting really prideful about all their stuff. And then this guy named Obadiah was a prophet. And God gave him some words about Edom in general. Now, this is a long time after Genesis 36. But in order to get the entire picture of Esau, because this is pretty much the last time we're going to hear of this family, we need to know what happened to the Edomites, what happened to all of these people. I don't know about you, but you probably don't see too many Edomites anymore, do you? You probably haven't run into anyone that's like, I'm an Edomite. I know we live in America, but I guarantee you haven't run into anybody that says, yes, I'm from the land of Edom. It's now Jordan, but we don't see anyone who's an Edomite anymore. And there's a reason for that, and Obadiah paints a pretty good picture. So we're going to spend the rest of our time, the time that we have, which I've spent a lot of time already, we're going to spend the rest of our time in the book of Obadiah, which is a word I never thought I would ever say as a preacher. I was like, great, we're going to do a study in Obadiah. Honestly, it was one of those books that I forgot about, to be completely honest. I was like, wait, Obadiah is a book of the Bible? Yeah, one chapter. It doesn't even say chapter 1. It's just about 22 verses, 21 verses is all Obadiah is. But all it is, Obadiah is a prophetic word against the people of Edom. So let's get a little bit of context here. We know where the Edomites come from. They come from Esau. They're the red people, and they... Esau was really red and hairy. They come from a land that was very red, and so that's why they were called the Edomites. So this is what Obadiah had to say concerning Edom. The vision of Obadiah, verse 1. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom, we have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up, let us rise against her for battle. Anytime the Lord is rising against someone for battle, that's probably bad news. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rocks in your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. Like I said, the people of Edom were very prideful. They loved the landscape that they had. They thought they had it made. They thought that they were going to be, again, remember, these were people who had a nice spot to be in. My picture's not coming back up, so whatever. I guess we're just going to, that's weird. There we go. I don't know why that's off by one. Okay. Oh, I do know why. Never mind. Okay, sorry. Keep going. Remember, this is what it looks like. Everybody on the podcast was just like, I don't know what's happening right now. I had some trouble with the computer. this is what the area looked like. Remember, so they were very prideful in what they thought they were able to accomplish. And that's... The pride of your heart has deceived you. They thought they were going to be around for a long time, and God's saying, no, you're about to be humbled. You're about to be humbled. They thought they were safe with their surroundings and with their wisdom. It was all about them. It was all about their own pride. And God's, through his prophet Obadiah, said, no, that's not what's going to happen. Okay, let's keep going. Obadiah 10. So we're going to skip around a little bit. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. But do not gloat over the day of your brother in the day of his misfortune. Do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin. Do not boast in the day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Do not gloat over his disaster in the day of his calamity. Do not loot his wealth in the day of his calamity. Do not stand at the crossroads to cut off his fugitives. Do not hand over his survivors in the day of distress. See, they did nothing. Okay, what's going on here is he's saying that there was a time when the people of Israel were in trouble. Happened a few times. 3 or 4 times, actually. And the Edomites just stood by and did nothing. That's how it starts. It started something small. We're not going to do anything. They're a brother nation of ours, honestly, because it's the Edomites and it's the Israelites. 2 brothers, Jacob and Esau, birthed these 2 nations. We've got Israel and we've got the Edomites. So they're 2 brother nations. It's important to remember that. And the Edomites looked at what was happening to Israel and did nothing. And what's worse, after they did nothing, then they decided that they were going to rejoice in what was happening to the Israelites. Now, don't think that you're not above this, because I'm not above this. If I see a rival person, if I see... How honest do I want to be today? Well, let's be as honest, because we're all about transparency here at Restoration Church, aren't we? There have been times when I have not liked another church. And I've gone so far as to do nothing to help them. I've gone so far, I hate to say this, but to secretly rejoice when another church is failing. I'm not proud of that. It's not something I ran home and told my wife, hey, guess what what a great day this is today, because this church is failing. More for us. I've acted more like Edom than I would like to admit. They rejoiced in their calamity. They took advantage of their stuff. They looted it. And then they stopped them. They cut them off. They didn't let them pass. So this is it's something that they did against their brother nation in Israel. And this is why they're being judged in Obadiah. This is the reason for this prophecy, is like, you treated the Israelites horribly. In fact, this isn't the only time that they've been treated horribly. In fact, Moses, when Moses, Big Mo, the guy from that led everybody out of Egypt, that did the 10 plagues, all of that kind of stuff, went through, parted the Red Sea, or was there when God parted the Red Sea. This is Moses, and it says in the book of Numbers that they were trying to go through the land of Edom. When they were going to the promised land, they tried to go through the land of Edom. And in Numbers chapter 20, it gives us recap. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. Thus says your brother Israel. Your brother Israel. You know all the hardship that we have met. How our fathers went down to Egypt, and we lived in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians dealt harshly with us and our fathers. And when we cried to the Lord, he heard our voice and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. And here we are in Kadesh, a city on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your land. We will not pass through field or vineyard or drink water from a well. We will go along the king's highway. We will not turn aside to the right hand or to the left until we have passed through your territory. But Edom said to him, you shall not pass through, lest I come out with the sword against you. And the people of Israel said to him, we will go up by the highway, and if we drink of your water, I and my livestock, then I will pay for it. Let me only pass through on foot, nothing more. But he said, you shall not pass. You cannot pass through. And Edom came out against them with a large army and with a strong force. Thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his territory. So Israel turned away from him. Moses was like, let us just go through. We won't take anything. In fact, we'll pay you for anything that we use. The water that we use, we'll give you a goat. Just let us pass through. Let us just walk through your land. We're your brother nation. Can you please just do this for us? And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Edom. They wanted pride. They were too wise. They weren't going to let them pass through. You guys can't go through our place. Sorry. I know we're brothers and all, but no, not happening. So they're getting judged for it. Back to Obadiah, verse 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the nations, as you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. For as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so all the nations shall drink continually. They shall drink and swallow, and shall be as though they had never been. But in Mount Zion there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy, and the house of Jacob shall possess their own possessions. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau stubble. They shall burn them and consume them, and there shall be no survivor for the house.